For 3 years, I served as a gilded canary for Xinyan. The rules were straightforward. A routine affair, followed by a prompt return to my own quarters. Tonight, as customary, I rose to depart. Damn it, is this it? I've only just warmed up. Am I really expected to wait another half a month next time? A vexed and stifled voice resounded clearly in my mind. I froze, turning rigidly to face him. But Xinyan's perpetually icy visage showed no sign of acknowledgement, not even a flutter of his eyelids. Yet that voice, without a doubt, belonged to him. Could it be that I was privy to this ancestral being's inner musings? Within this gilded cage, it seemed 2 bewildered birds were ensnared. 01. The air conditioning chilled my skin, making it taut. It was over. I braced myself against my weak waist, sitting up and casting off the covers to descend from the bed. I had been a gilded canary for Xinyan for 3 years. The contract was unequivocal. A routine engagement, followed by my discreet retreat to my own room, ensuring mutual decorum. I had adhered to this arrangement with impeccable diligence. As my feet grazed the frigid floor, a vexed and stifled voice once again erupted in my mind. Damn it, is this it? I've only just warmed up. Am I really expected to wait another half a month next time? I stood paralyzed, a chill creeping down my spine, slowly twisting my head. Xinyan held an unlit cigarette between his fingers, his thin lips pressed into a line, his eyelids drooping. He resembled a piece of jade sculpture recently hewn from an icy block. Mr. Xin? My voice quivered, betraying my own apprehension. He lazily lifted his eyelids, his dark gaze piercing through me, chillingly inquiring, "Is there something?" Simultaneously, another voice echoed in my mind. Did he just refer to me as Mr. Xin? When we were entangled on the bed, he certainly did not use such a tone. Was he turning cold right after I got out of bed? What about professional decorum? Had he discarded it entirely? My legs weakened, nearly causing me to kneel. The influx of information was overwhelming. My mind was in a frenzy. The cold-faced Yan Wang Xinyan cared about this? And what about that endless entanglement? Professionalism? My thoughts tangled into a chaotic mess, yet I strained to maintain a composed facade, fearful of revealing any cracks. No, it's nothing. I was just heading back to my room. I managed to force a feigned smile, gesturing toward the door. Xinyan responded with a dismissive his tone exceedingly perfunctory, his gaze returning to that innocent cigarette. Return, return, return. All he knows is to return to that wretched room. His inner voice was fraught with urgency and frustration, laced with a hint of grievance. Was the master bedroom rigged with explosives? Would lingering for another second detonate my demise? The contract? Yes, the contract stipulated immediate availability, yet it did not state that I must vacate the moment business was concluded. Was I to exploit loopholes? Where was the lawyer? I ought to sue him. I stumbled over my own feet, barely managing to grasp the doorframe to prevent myself from tumbling out. Sue me? Just for not lingering a moment longer. Xinyan, is your thought process akin to a winding mountain road? The following morning, in the dining hall, the sunlight streamed through the floor-to-ceiling windows, yet the atmosphere within was so frigid it could freeze one to the bone. Xinyan sat at the far end of the long table, slicing his fried egg with leisurely grace, his collar slightly undone. His movements were so elegant they could grace a commercial, yet his countenance was as frigid as an air conditioner. I occupied the seat opposite him, a considerable distance apart, engrossed in devouring my slice of bread. The echoes of last night's heartfelt confessions reverberated in my mind. Could it be mere auditory hallucinations? Perhaps I should test it again. Mr. Shen, I set my bread down, striving for a tone of nonchalance. My slippers have worn out. The soles are smooth, and I slip when I walk. He pierced the runny yolk of his egg with his fork, not lifting his gaze, merely responding with a faint, "Understood." Slippers? He chose to mention slippers to me? My inner voice escalated, brimming with absurdity. I had tossed and turned all night, my thoughts consumed by him, from his hair to his toes, and yet the first thing he uttered upon waking was about slippers? What sort of nonsense filled his mind? The roar of my thoughts reverberated painfully in my ears, compelling me to bow my head and bite my cheek, my shoulders trembling violently. Damn it, Xinyan, the detritus in your mind is the real rubbish. Thank you, Mr. Shen. I cleared my throat, my face flushed. He glanced up, a hint of curiosity in his eyes. Why is your face so red? Is he unwell? The air conditioning too low? Or perhaps my thoughts from last night trailed off, tinged with annoyance. TCH, why should I care? If he is ill, it just means he won't be thinking of escaping all day. I hastily gulped down a mouthful of milk, waving my hands in denial. Perhaps the bread got a bit stuck. Shen didn't press further, lowering his gaze to resume his battle with the pitiful fried egg. May you choke on it, for my peace of mind. Warm milk slid down my throat as I absorbed that thought of choke on it. Was there a strange vitality seeping into the gilded cage? With my new toy in hand, I cautiously explored this sudden superpower. Shen Yan's icy demeanor became my personal commentary screen. In the morning, when I handed him coffee, my fingers accidentally brushed against his. He remained as composed as an old dog, not a single eyelash betraying him. Yet within, my thoughts raced. He touched me first. This cup deserves a place of honor in the sterilizer S' position. My hand trembled, nearly spilling coffee onto his bespoke suit. In the afternoon, while watching a film in the media room, he entered, retrieving documents, eyes fixed ahead. I mumbled softly, "This movie is so boring." Sure enough, his internal monologue seamlessly aligned with mine. Boring? Which fool picked this film? Wasting his time. Secretary Zhang's bonus is gone. Wait, is he hinting for me to watch with him? Surely. I watched as he halted, expressionless, before sitting beside me. He picked up a document, feigning interest. Closer. Closer. Is this distance appropriate? Is it deliberate? Am I holding the document upside down? Clutching the popcorn bucket, I stifled laughter that threatened to turn into abdominal cramps. Shen Yan, your carefully curated persona is crumbling to pieces. That evening, after bathing, I donned loose pajamas and ventured to the living room for a drink. He emerged from the study just as my bare legs caught his gaze for a fleeting moment before he averted his eyes with indifference. Those legs so pale, almost blinding. Why are these shorts so short? Is the fabric made of gold that I cannot afford longer ones? Why is the air conditioning set so low, aiming to freeze someone? Tomorrow, I'll have the maid lengthen all his pants by 20 centimeters. A sip of water lodged in my windpipe, causing me to cough explosively. Shen Yan frowned, glancing my way, his tone as perpetually cold as ever. Be careful when drinking water. Damn it. His thoughts were a cacophony of exasperation. Yet he shifted half a step closer. Coughing so violently, you might cough up a lung. Where's the first aid kit? Damn it. I waved my hand, observing his awkward concern masked by his icy demeanor. 3 years passed, and only now did I realize that this canary-esque life might hold a hint of intrigue. The half-month sentence finally drew to a close. I marked the time, anticipating his summons. Sure enough, shortly after dinner, the intercom rang. Mr. He, President Shin requests your presence in the master bedroom. Here it comes. I exhaled before the mirror, adjusting my pajama collar. This time I was determined to be prepared. How he has led me astray. I pushed open the master bedroom door, where warm yellow lamps cast a glow. He leaned against the headboard, fingers delicately holding that cursed cigarette. He slowly raised his gaze, his eyes unfathomable. I approached, refraining from diving straight to the point as I usually did, instead halting at the bedside, awkwardly asking, Mr. Shen, what would you like me to do tonight? The moment the question escaped my lips, I wanted to slap myself. What a foolish inquiry. Shen Yan's brow furrowed, his expression darkening further. He said nothing, merely tossed the cigarette onto the bedside table, producing a soft clatter. What do you want to do? You ask me what to do? Should I recite the contract, He Lingzhou? Did I pay you to discuss life's philosophy? His internal roar reverberated in my head, leaving me reeling. I instinctively stepped back. He abruptly threw aside the covers, towering over me with an imposing presence, gripping my wrist, his voice icy. He Lingzhou, something about you seems off tonight. Is he avoiding me? Yes, actually avoiding me? My voice trembled with shock and anger, tinged with panic. Half a month. I've been counting the days for half a month. And he dares to ask me what I want to do? And avoiding me? Is there someone else? Which blind fool? His grip was firm, causing me to furrow my brow slightly. I struggled, but he held me fast. Gazing at his handsome face so close, I could see a tempest of emotions swirling in his dark eyes that I could not decipher. Listening to the uproar in his mind, I was both amused and incredulous. Does it hurt? Is this painful? Yet Shen Yan loosened his grip slightly, spoiled. It's a habit I've indulged. I watched him, clearly furious yet also concerned about truly hurting me, and a bold idea sparked within me. Perhaps I could take the initiative? I raised my other hand, gently brushing my fingertips against the corner of his tightly pressed lips. At the moment my fingertips grazed his lips, time seemed to freeze. Shen became utterly still. The pressure of his grip vanished, replaced by a gentle encirclement. His eyes widened slightly, reflecting my anxious yet daring face. The frost that had long enveloped him cracked open a sliver, revealing a flicker of bewilderment. Did he touch me? On the lips? Does he think I'm fierce? Or my fingertips lingered on his warm skin, feeling the tension in his body. Summoning my courage, I traced the outline of his lips, tenderly and slowly. Shen inhaled sharply, his throat working intensely. All the emotions that had been brewing in his dark eyes ignited, transforming into a raging inferno. Whatever his intentions, he touched me. It belongs to me. The voice resonated within me, tinged with a sense of reckless joy. In a whirl of motion, he pulled my wrist, forcefully drawing me into his embrace, my nose colliding with his firm chest, his large hand cradling the back of my head. His heated breath descended upon me, fiercely claiming my air. It was not a kiss. It was a brazen declaration and assertion. His lips and tongue invaded with a pent-up fervor and madness. Mean it. That singular word echoed in my mind. It should have been like this all along. All this hesitating has been a waste of time. I was kissed to the brink of suffocation, limbs turning to jelly, my mind a blank slate. Time lost its meaning as I felt myself on the verge of unconsciousness from lack of oxygen. He pulled back just slightly, our foreheads touching, breaths warm and erratic, his eyes ablaze with intensity, fixated on my swollen lips with a fierce longing. Not enough. Far from enough. The hand at the back of my head tightened, his body pressing down with weight. His gaze unmistakably communicated that this warm-up was merely the beginning. The intensity of our preliminary activities surpassed any prior encounter. I felt utterly exhausted, like a lifeless fish, my consciousness fading. The residual consciousness within me nudges that it is time to depart. The habit cultivated over 3 years is deeply ingrained. Once the task is complete, one must leave, as per the rules. The moment I stir, an iron grip tightens around my waist, nearly robbing me of breath. Do not move, a voice above me rasps lazily. Planning to flee again? Not a chance. Should he dare step out of the master bedroom tonight, I shall write my surname in reverse. I find myself uncomfortably constricted, fatigue weighing heavily upon me, and I cannot suppress a quiet protest. Mr. Shen, I must return. Silence. Shen dismisses me outright, his chin brushing against my hair. Sleep. Sleep? What nonsense. Is your dismal room more comfortable than my embrace? The contract? I'll amend it tomorrow to include an overnight clause, and then we'll see if you can escape. His audacious logic leaves me momentarily speechless. My weariness quickly drowns out any thoughts of resistance. Just before slipping into slumber, I sense him lean down, bestowing a fleeting, tender kiss upon my forehead. Finally compliant, he behaves rather well. This sleep envelopes me in a profound darkness, and upon reopening my eyes, the sunlight pierces through, blinding me. Behind me is the warmth of his chest, and encircling my waist is his heavy arm. Shen remains asleep, his breath steady and elongated, brushing against the nape of my neck, eliciting a ticklish sensation. I lie frozen, paralyzed by the situation. The master bedroom, in his arms. Have I truly slept through the entire night? Rule number 1 of the canary? Game over. I cautiously attempt to shift his arm away. As I lift it slightly, a disgruntled murmur escapes his lips. Disturbing my sleep? Move again, and I shall be bound to the bed. Alarmed, I instantly relinquish my grasp, and he pulls me closer into his embrace, satisfied with a soft hum. Such a slender waist, zhao zhao. I lie rigidly in his hold, attuned to the rhythm of his heartbeat. Is it over? Has the cage been welded shut? What exactly is Shen Yan's situation? Like a wooden puppet, I find myself firmly ensnared in his embrace until his biological clock rouses him from slumber. Shen Yan opens his eyes, transitioning from the haze of sleep to a sharp clarity in mere seconds. He gazes down at the stiff form of me in his hold, then at the arm encircling my waist. The air is eerily silent. I swallow nervously, bracing myself for his icy sarcasm or the possibility of being unceremoniously tossed from the bed. Yet, to my surprise, the esteemed CEO naturally retracts his arm and rises from the bed. He strides to the window, drawing back the curtains, allowing sunlight to flood in and illuminate the motes of dust dancing in the air. With his back to me, silhouetted against the light, he stands tall, his voice flat, Wake up and freshen up. Breakfast is ready. TSK, having held me all night, it's not half bad, better than a mere pillow. Such a simple and unadorned standard of evaluation. After freshening up, I descend the stairs to find Shun Yen seated at the dining table, engrossed in his tablet. Upon hearing my footsteps, he does not lift his head but gestures toward the seat across from him. The breakfast spread is lavish. A delightful fusion of Eastern and Western cuisines, laid out in abundance, far exceeding the usual standards. I sit down, astonished, and pick up a glass of milk. What are your plans for today? He inquires, setting aside his tablet and glancing at me with a casual tone. Should I dare mention a trip to the art studio or a rendezvous with friends? My hand gripping the milk glass halts momentarily, and I respond honestly. Nothing much, just planning to read at home. As if to say, you're wise to know your place. Shun Yen acknowledges with a simple returning to his tablet, seemingly pleased with my answer. I breathe a sigh of relief, lowering my gaze to sip my milk. Just as I take a sip, he casually adds, I have no plans this afternoon. Oh, just a no? My inner voice rises in dissatisfaction. Is my hint so subtle? No plans this afternoon. Need I explicitly state I want you to accompany me? Has my emotional intelligence been fed to the dogs? I choke on the milk, my face flushing crimson. What's the difference between a subtle hint and an overt suggestion? Summoning my courage, I ask, what does Mr. Shun want to do this afternoon? Fine, I may lack emotional acuity, but so be it. Only then does Shun Yen leisurely set down his tablet, picking up a knife and fork to cut into his bacon, chewing slowly. Just when I think he might remain silent, he condescends to respond, let us watch a movie. The kind of couples seating, dark and intimate, ideally booked exclusively for us, perfect for hands-on interaction. Is it not? My inner voice exclaims with excitement. The milk glass in my hand suddenly feels heavy. Shun Yen, your intentions are almost palpable. At 2:30 in the afternoon, I stand bewildered before a wardrobe full of clothes. What to wear for the movie? Too formal would seem foolish. Too casual might displease him. I know too well Shun Yen's discerning taste. Just as I waver, the door swings open. Shun Yen appears, donned in a navy blue casual suit, broad-shouldered and long-legged, exuding an air of wealth. Leaning against the door frame, he surveys my hoodie and t-shirt, his brow furrowing slightly. What are these rags? You'll embarrass yourself wearing that. Put this on, he commands, pointing to a luxurious light-colored linen outfit tucked deep within the wardrobe. I obediently change. It feels comfortable, well-tailored, but perhaps too much like I'm heading to a salon. Emerging in the new attire, Shun Yen inspects me from head to toe. Well, they say clothing makes the person. My inner voice barely passes the grade. The driver awaits downstairs. The car glides smoothly toward the city center, home to a cinema renowned for its luxury and privacy. In the back seat, Shun Yen rests his eyes. Did he reserve couple seating? I must remember to order double servings of sweet caramel popcorn. He seems to favor that. As for drinks, I'll skip them, water is healthier. The lights dim, and just as the film is about to start, I silently turn my flushed face to the car window. My inner voice has prepared quite a meticulous checklist. Upon arrival at the cinema's exclusive VIP entrance, a meticulously dressed manager awaits, bowing respectfully. Mr. Shun, Mr. He, this way, please. The screening room has been prepared for you, booked exclusively as per your prior instructions. Booked exclusively? I glance at Shun Yen, astonished. He merely replies with a nonchalant obviously. Who would want an audience? It would hinder my performance. The screening room is as opulent as a banquet hall, featuring a massive curved silver screen, spacious leather sofas, and armrest-free couple seating. 2 large buckets of caramel popcorn sit on a low table, accompanied by 2 glasses of water. The film begins in 5 minutes. The lighting is set to a comfortable mode. Should you require anything, please press the service bell. The manager respectfully withdraws, and as the soundproof door closes, the spacious screening room is left with just the 2 of us. The lights swiftly dim, leaving only the silver screen's soft glow and ambient lighting. Shun Yen occupies the center of the sofa, patting the seat beside him. I shuffle over to sit down. The sofa is plush, the distance between us minimal, allowing me to inhale his scent mingled with the sweetness of popcorn. The opening music plays. I reach for the popcorn bucket, my fingers grazing its edge when a warm, dry hand envelopes mine, covering my hand. Startled, I turn to look. Shun Yen stares ahead, his profile deep and serious, yet his fingers betray his tension. Cold bucket. My inner voice quips, a tad nervously yet defiantly. I'm just helping you warm your hands. His warm palm stubbornly encloses mine, pressing it against the armrest of the sofa. Ah, your hands are quite soft. My inner voice rejoices, feeling a sense of pride as his thumb gently caresses my hands back. A tingling sensation erupts. Half of my body feels numb, and the movie holds no further interest for me. The screen displays a barrage of bullets, depicting a fast-paced action blockbuster. Yet, all my senses are consumed by the warmth of his hand. Xinyan appears focused, but internally, his thoughts have drifted. The antagonist is foolish. If it were me, I would have collapsed the protagonist long ago. Terrible driving skills. I'm a far superior driver. How can they fight for so long without tiring? Their stamina is impressive, albeit slightly better than Zhao Zhao's. Why are Zhao Zhao's hands so cold? Is the air conditioning too low? I should ask the manager to turn it up. Thank you for your concern, Shun Yan. Your film critique is truly unique. The warmth from his palm continuously radiates to me, and soon my palm becomes slightly sweaty, sticky, and uncomfortable. I gently attempt to withdraw, yet his large hand immediately tightens its grip. Planning to escape? Not a chance. I've just warmed you up. He subtly adjusted his posture, leaning his body ever so slightly, his arm pressing against mine. Through the fabric, the warmth radiating from his arm became increasingly pronounced. I found myself in a state of bemusement, surrendering to his grasp, my attention only half-heartedly focused on the film. At that moment, the movie reached its climax, the leading couple sharing a passionate kiss amidst a hail of bullets, the score achingly sentimental. My toes curled against the armrest as I felt his hand enveloping mine, his fingertips slowly and tentatively tracing circles on the tender skin of my inner wrist. A shiver coursed through me, and I jolted slightly. Shen Yan remained fixated on the screen, his profile taut, embodying the image of a virtuous gentleman, though the faint flush of his ears betrayed him. This wretched film just won't stop with the kissing. My inner voice seethed, a mix of annoyance and bitterness. What's there to kiss about? Broad daylight is hardly the right time. It's scandalous, shocking the innocent. As he continued to critique the film, his hand grew bolder, the gentle circles morphing into teasing caresses, inching upward from my wrist to the delicate skin of my forearm. His fingers kneaded my flesh, igniting a flurry of delicate tremors within me. I held my breath, the chaotic scene on the screen fading into the background. Shen Yan's breathing seemed to deepen, the warmth of his hand noticeably rising. The snarky commentary of the audience vanished, replaced by a fervent thought. So smooth, I mused, captivated. How about venturing a bit higher? His fingers began to encroach further, trailing up the inner side of my forearm, perilously close to crossing my elbow and probing into more dangerous territories. A tingle of exhilaration raced down my spine, and I thought it best to avert my gaze from the movie. Suddenly, I yanked my hand away with a bit too much force, causing the nearby popcorn bucket to topple over. Crash, the golden cascade spilled across the carpet, the sweet aroma overwhelming. The noise was jarring. Shun Yan frowned at the mess, then turned to me, his expression tinged with displeasure. What are you doing? I had just begun to set the mood. My inner voice grumbled, thoroughly vexed. I bent down to gather the scattered popcorn, murmuring, sorry. Don't move, he commanded, pressing the service bell beside him. The side door slid open silently, and a waiter entered briskly, trained to clean up the mess. Xinyan averted his gaze, returning his focus to the screen, though it was evident that his thoughts were elsewhere. After a few moments of silence, he abruptly stood up. I'm done here, he declared, his tone rigid and irritable. This is pointless. My frustration bubbled over. It was all the fault of that blasted popcorn and the tiresome film, which had left me seething. I observed him in his sulkiness, then glanced at the screen where the kissing scene had just concluded, momentarily at a loss for words. What was this anger all about? The waiter swiftly finished tidying up and silently exited. Shen Yan straightened his impeccably tailored suit, looking down at me still seated on the sofa. Let us go. Oh, I replied slowly, rising to my feet. He shot me a glance, seemingly disapproving of my sluggishness, and his brow furrowed again. He reached out, seizing my hand that had just escaped his grasp, gripping it tightly and pulling me along without further ado. Next time, let us choose a different place. My inner voice lamented, plotting, a private cinema? At home? Soundproofing is essential, and the sofa needs to be replaced. As he dragged me along, I listened to his outrageous plans, observing his tightly clasped hand. The embarrassment was swiftly replaced by a complex array of emotions. Shenyan, are your expectations for a movie experience truly so comprehensive? The car did not head directly back to the villa, but instead stopped at an upscale private dining establishment. The courtyard was quaint, adorned with classical charm, complete with flowing streams and serene elegance. Get out. Shenyan released my hand and opened the door first. I'm starving, he added. Seated in a private room by the water, having just ordered our meal, his phone rang. He glanced at it, frowned, and hung up. Annoying. The exquisitely presented dishes began to arrive. I dove into my meal with fervor while he ate at a leisurely pace, occasionally stealing glances at me. Your table manners are acceptable, I internally acknowledged, albeit begrudgingly. At that moment, his phone rang again, persistent as ever. Shun Yen's expression darkened as he answered, his tone frosty. Speak. Understood. Not available, he replied curtly before hanging up, the air around him growing even more tense. That Chun fellow again. My inner voice seethed with agitation. Discussing a collaboration? What nonsense. Does he think I'm blind? I paused mid-bite. Chin? The overly enthusiastic general manager Chun from last week's cocktail party? Had Shenyan seen him? He set his chopsticks down, his dark eyes locking onto mine with intensity. He Lingzhou. I looked up at him, puzzled. Stay away from that Chun, he commanded authoritatively. Huh? Wasn't the collaboration called off? I responded, bewildered. Even if it's off, one must remain cautious. He doesn't give up easily, my inner voice insisted resolutely, reading the danger in his eyes. He is not a suitable person, Shenyan stated flatly, picking up the serving chopsticks and placing a generous portion of sweet and sour ribs into my bowl. Just eat. Eat more, put on some weight, so those opportunistic cats and dogs outside don't see you as prey. I gazed at the mountain of ribs piled in my bowl, then glanced back at his tense jawline. This irrational jealousy was both amusing and disheartening. I couldn't help but chuckle. All right, I replied, biting into the ribs, unable to suppress a smile. The sweet and sour flavor was perhaps a tad too sugary. On the weekend, Shenyan did not go to the office. During breakfast, he perused a financial magazine and slowly said, "We're going to the shooting range today." What? I was taken aback. Shooting? How hardcore? Surely, he had never touched a gun before. My inner voice speculated with an odd sense of excitement. I'll teach you, he stated flatly, closing the magazine. Go change your clothes first. The VIP area of the shooting range was spacious and quiet. After the instructor explained the basics, Shenyan waved him away. Give it a try, he gestured toward the handgun on the table. I donned the earmuffs, feeling a surge of nerves as I picked up the gun. Recalling the instructor's guidance, I aimed at the distant target, my stance awkward and unsteady. Shenyan stood behind me, frowning. What kind of stance is this? Are you aiming at birds? My inner voice critiqued disdainfully. Your waist is sagging, your shoulders aren't relaxed, and why is your arm trembling? Suddenly, he stepped forward, his tall frame nearly enveloping my back. The warmth of his breath brushed against my ear, causing me to shiver. Straighten your back, his deep voice whispered close to me. One large hand settled on my waist, lifting me with firm guidance. Wow, so slim, my inner voice slipped momentarily. I stiffened. Relax your shoulders. His other hand pressed down gently on my right shoulder, applying just the right amount of pressure, while his fingers lightly grazed my collarbone. Steady now. Extend your arm. Don't shake. His cool fingers traced along my forearm, gently adjusting my grip. Yes, just like that. My inner voice focused, a hint of stern instruction weaving through. Breathe, take it easy. His chest was almost imperceptibly pressed against my back, his heat seeping through the thin fabric. The hand-holding was seamless. I could even catch the faint scent of his clean aftershave mingling with the metallic aroma of the gun. The air grew thick with tension. Focus on the target, he murmured, his voice dropping to a whisper. Don't let your mind wander. Wander? I'm the one losing focus. I thought suddenly, my mind veering off course. That neck of yours looks divine. I want to bite it. Bang. I flinched, the bullet veering off target, flying who knows where. Shenyan remained silent. Oops, I muttered. Fool. My inner voice sighed, tinged with a hint of unrecognized indulgence. Try again. He didn't pull away. Instead, he leaned in closer, his hand firmly returning to mine, stabilizing the grip on the gun. This time steady. Exiting the shooting range, my throat felt parched. What would you like to drink? Shin asked casually as he opened the car door for me. Milk tea, extra sugar, iced, I blurted out, my eyes sparkling. After the intense session, I was in dire need of some sugar to revive me. Shin paused, his brow furrowing immediately. Milk tea? My inner voice exploded. What junk? It's all artificial sweeteners and coloring. Iced? You want to make your stomach ache? Absolutely not. Drink water. He decisively shoved me into the car, dismissing my desire for milk tea with a disdainful remark about the superior quality of the Fiji water he had airlifted home. My inner voice simmered with indignation. I wilted under the pressure and muttered softly, just this once. He started the engine, ignoring my protest. The pressure inside the car plummeted. Not even occasionally. It's detrimental to your health. My thoughts continued to echo. Those shops are filthy. Who knows what they add to their drinks? Instead of heading home, he veered into a minimalist, exorbitantly priced bottled water specialty store in the commercial district. Shin exited the vehicle and returned shortly, bearing a glass bottle inscribed with foreign characters, which he thrust into my hands. Drink. I was left speechless, staring at this bottle of water that likely cost as much as a month's worth of my beloved milk tea. While it quenched my thirst, my joy was utterly obliterated. The following afternoon, Secretary Zhang called, his voice devoid of emotion. Mr. He, President Shin asked me to inquire about the names of the milk tea shops you frequently order from. Dumbfounded, I questioned, why do you need to know that? President Shin instructed me to obtain the specific names and addresses. A sense of foreboding washed over me, but I relented and provided the information. Half an hour later, Secretary Zhang called back. Mr. He, I must inform you that the 8 milk tea shops you mentioned have been wholly acquired by the Shin Corporation. Effective immediately, all locations are closed for a comprehensive food safety and recipe upgrade, with reopening dates yet to be determined. I stood frozen in the living room, gripping the phone, feeling as if I had been petrified. I could almost hear Shun Yan's derisive laughter echoing from his office. Let us see you drink now. I've cut off your supply. To prevent me from enjoying milk tea, he had simply bought out the stores? Such actions were both extravagantly ruthless and astonishingly juvenile. I slumped on the sofa, staring at the ceiling, overwhelmed with a mix of sorrow and anger. Had my freedom to enjoy milk tea perished at the hands of a capitalist's affection? My small studio was nestled in the attic of the villa, a sanctuary of my own. That afternoon, as I mixed colors on the canvas, there was a soft knock at the door, which swung open before I could respond. Shin Yan stood at the threshold, clad in loungewear, holding a cup of coffee. He surveyed the studio, his gaze landing on my paint-stained apron, his brow furrowed in habitual disapproval. Messy, he remarked succinctly. Is there something you need?
I set down my palette.
He stepped inside, his movements steady, pausing to observe the unfinished landscape on the easel. The colors are acceptable, he offered, albeit reluctantly, better than that awful milk tea. I was just passing by, he stated tersely, placing the coffee cup on a small table beside me. Care for a drink? I shook my head. I'm painting. I don't want to spill. He acknowledged my response with a non-committal sound, remaining standing just behind me, close enough to be felt but not intrusive, his presence palpable. The air was infused with the faint scent of his body wash mingling with the aroma of coffee, making me increasingly uncomfortable. His gaze lingered on my neck, shoulder, and arm, causing my brush strokes to falter. A smear of blue paint brushed against the nape of my neck, igniting a rush of self-consciousness. Don't move, he suddenly commanded, and I froze. He stepped closer, casting a tall shadow over me. His cool fingers, calloused yet gentle, glided over my neck, wiping away the paint with surprising delicacy. Clumsy, my inner voice critiqued, though the action was surprisingly tender. The brief contact sent a shiver up my spine, nearly causing my brush to slip from my grasp. All done, he announced, retracting his hand, a hint of sky-blue paint clinging to his fingertips. He absent-mindedly twirled it before turning to gaze out the window. I stood there, momentarily stunned, the spot on my neck feeling as though it had caught fire. Painting had become an impossible task. What was his purpose here? To supervise? To disrupt? Mr. Shin, perhaps you should attend to your own affairs? I tentatively suggested, hoping to usher him away. He turned, his dark eyes meeting mine with an intensity that sent a chill down my spine. Am I in your way? Not at all, I quickly backtracked. Good. He replied with satisfaction, moving to stand beside the easel, feigning interest. Continue. I straightened my posture, feeling the weight of his gaze bearing down on me, uncomfortably warm. The studio had suddenly lost its safety. In the middle of the night, I awoke with a dry throat and chills coursing through my body. I attempted to rise and fetch some water, but my head felt heavy, and my vision blurred. As I stumbled into the living room, my hands trembled while pouring water. Cough, cough, cough. I could not suppress a noise, and with a thud, the door to the study swung open. Xin Yan emerged in a bathrobe, his expression grim in the dim light. "What are you doing up at this hour, making such a racket?" "Just getting water," I croaked, my voice barely audible. He strode over, snatching the cold cup from my hands, pressing the back of his hand against my forehead. His touch was alarmingly hot, darkening his expression further. "You're burning up?" My thoughts raced with panic. Where's the medicine cabinet? He turned swiftly to search through the cupboards, his movements frantic. He emerged shortly after with a thermometer and fever-reducing medication. "Open your mouth," he commanded, inserting the thermometer without room for argument. 38.2. My inner voice seethed with annoyance as I watched the reading. I felt dazed and was promptly pushed down onto the sofa, forced to swallow medication and water. He then retreated into the kitchen, returning soon after with an ice pack wrapped in a clean towel. "Lie down," his tone remained firm. I obediently reclined, feeling the cool softness of the ice against my forehead. He placed the towel-wrapped pack on me with a surprising gentleness. This should help, I thought, though uncertainty gnawed at me. "If you're not better by tomorrow, I'll take you to the hospital." The soothing chill alleviated some of the heat radiating from my forehead. He sat on the carpet beside the sofa, close enough for me to feel his presence. In the darkness, I could hear his uneven breathing. "How troublesome. Can't you recognize when you're unwell?" I chastised silently. The ice pack shifted, slipping slightly and causing the towel to slide, exposing the cold directly to my skin, causing me to flinch. He paused, tightening the wrap. "Delicate," my inner voice scolded, yet his touch softened. His hand, resting on the ice pack, gently brushed against my temple, offering a sense of comfort. As my consciousness ebbed and flowed, I thought I sensed him release a soft sigh, barely audible. The fever subsided, but I still felt drained. Xin Yan insisted I remain at home to recuperate. Just then, my phone vibrated with a voice message from my college friend, Zhou Jin. Zhou had opened an independent gallery in a neighboring city, and we occasionally discussed the art market. As soon as I answered the call, Zhou's voice erupted through the speaker. Zhou, I need you. We're short-staffed for the exhibition, and I need you to fill in." "Me? But those are just my drafts," I protested. "Drafts? Nonsense. City Light and Shadow is more than worthy. I'll send you the materials. The preliminary review is early next week. You absolutely must come." With a click, the call ended abruptly. The study door slammed against the wall as Xin Yan appeared, his expression dark as ink, gripping the car keys tightly. "Zhou?" My thoughts exploded like a nuclear mushroom cloud. What a persistent ghost. Who is he trying to seduce in broad daylight? Who? His voice was icy enough to freeze. "Zhou Jin from the gallery, he wants me to fill in for the exhibition." "Absolutely not," Xin Yan declared resolutely, leaving no room for negotiation. "On what grounds?" My temper flared in response. He closed the distance between us, his gaze sharp as a knife. "Healing Zhou, what is your status? Do you think you can just show your face in public? Dream on. Damn it. Does that Zhou fellow have his eyes glued to you? A joint exhibition? Over my dead body. Xin Yan, are you being unreasonable? This is my affair." "Your affair?" He let out a cold laugh, suddenly gripping my chin, forcing me to look up at him. His breath was hot and intense, enveloping my face. "Every single strand of hair from your head to your toes belongs to me. Doesn't it?" The contract was clear in black and white. "You are under my jurisdiction." I trembled with anger. "You bastard." He fixated on my flushed lips, rubbing his thumb over my cracked lower lip with a certain force. "Tsk, a bit swollen. It?" His tone took an abrupt turn, the pressure of his fingers lightened, infused with a vexed concession. "You can paint at home. Once you're done, I'll arrange an exhibition for you, but only I am allowed to see it." I was nearly choked by his absurd logic and that last phrase. How infuriating. It was utterly suffocating. A few days later, Xin Yan prepared a new studio for me, outfitted with dazzling top-tier equipment. Humph, paint at home with all the best gear. Let us see if you can escape now, I thought, feeling a sense of pride swell within me. Fine, I shall paint. I poured my energy into city lights and shadows. My phone rang, and it was the art supply vendor old Zhao lamenting Xiao He. The imported medium agent is stuck at customs. It won't be released until mid-next month. You have an exhibition next week. My vision darkened. Brother Zhao, I'll pay extra for expedited processing. Not even a fortune could help. Customs have it on lockdown. What a disaster. I slumped in my chair, staring at my half-finished work, feeling sick. The door creaked open, and Shun Yan entered with a cup of water, his tone indifferent. Are you going to make a scene? For whom? The art supplies are stuck at customs. I'm doomed for next week. Forget it, you wouldn't understand. I surrendered to despair. Customs? Stuck on his things? My mind caught that keyword. He pulled out his phone and walked slowly to the window, his voice lowered. I strained to catch a few words. Old Xia, yes. The materials for He Lingzhou are stuck. They need to be released now. In less than 3 minutes, the call ended. He returned, picked up his cup, and continued drinking water, his eyelids flickering. Tomorrow at 10, Special Customs Supervision Warehouse. Pick up the goods. Secretary Zhang will send you the address. I was left dumbfounded, nearly dropping my jaw to the floor. Such a trivial matter. The next day, I stood at the customs warehouse entrance, watching the staff respectfully load several boxes marked with foreign labels onto a truck. My mood felt as if I had swallowed a pallet of colors whole. Did Xin Yan manage to resolve this with just one call? Such damned authoritarianism. The exhibition received rave reviews. Zhou Jin bombarded me with calls. Zhou, we're having a celebration banquet. It's a private room with just the guys. You must come. No. Xin Yan appeared like a specter, snatching my phone and speaking coldly into the receiver. He has hemorrhoids acting up. He can't make it. Click. Xin Yan. I exploded. A private room? Just the guys? What does he intend to do? Get me drunk? Cuddle? As if I were dead. That is my celebration banquet, I shouted. Celebration? He scoffed, his gaze scanning me like an X-ray. What are you wearing? That shirt that reveals your collarbones? Or those new pants that cling to your backside? I could wear a sack, would that suffice? I felt uncomfortable under his scrutiny, speaking without thinking. His gaze darkened suddenly, taking a step closer, pushing me back against the sofa. He leaned over, his tall frame completely overshadowing me, his heated breath engulfing me. Wear a sack? His voice dropped to a low, hoarse tone as his fingers unexpectedly tugged at the neckline of my loose loungewear, peeking inside. That works too, we can celebrate right here. I'll personally celebrate with you. My heart raced to my throat, his breath and the implications of his words overwhelming me, and I instinctively pushed against his chest. What's the rush? He seized my wrist, pinning it above my head while his other hand searched the sofa crevice behind me. My breath hitched. What was he up to? He fumbled for a moment before withdrawing his hand, holding a crumpled chip bag. TSK. Trash. He discarded it disdainfully, releasing me and straightening up, brushing off non-existent dust. Time to eat. With that, he turned and left. Why was my neck so red? I sat on the sofa, my wrist still warm, my collar askew, gasping for breath. That little tug at my neckline was absolutely intentional. Xin Yan, you old rogue. Recently, my mind-reading abilities have been erratic, sometimes working, sometimes not, accompanied by sharp headaches. Tonight, Xin Yan was engaged in an international meeting, his frustration palpable even through the study door. My mind felt like a battleground. Useless. Redo it. Get lost tomorrow. What is Zhou doing right now? This wretched meeting. Annoying. I want to go out, but I can't. This morning he had looked so enticing. The cacophony of his roars, irritations, work commands, and murmurs about me all blended together. Suddenly, a sharp pain exploded in my head like a bomb. The book slipped from my hands and fell to the floor as I curled up in agony. Bang! The study door was kicked open violently, slamming against the wall. Xin Yan stormed out like a whirlwind, the video conference abruptly cut off. His face was ashen as he approached me, and without uttering a word, he swept me into his arms. What's wrong? His voice was taut, one hand already on my forehead. Damn, so cold? Is he worried or is he genuinely sick? I have a splitting headache, I gasped, my voice barely a whisper. Hang in there. He carried me outside with long strides. Damn this meeting, it's just wasting time. To the hospital. His booming voice made my ears ring, but being held tightly in his arms, enveloped in his familiar cold aura, was strangely comforting. Oddly enough, that excruciating headache began to ease slightly. The emergency room's white lights were blinding. The doctor scribbled on a form, migraine caused by stress and fatigue. Rest well, relax, and take your medicine on time. Upon hearing this, Shen Yen's expression darkened further. After settling the payment, collecting the medication, we drove home in silence. Once at home, he practically shoved me into the large bed in the master bedroom, his movements not particularly gentle. However, as he helped me lie down, his large hand carefully avoided my throbbing head. Stress? Fatigue? My mind was a volcano. Did I tire you out? He turned to pour a glass of water, and without hesitation, forced me to take my medicine, executing the action in one fluid motion. Lie still. His command was stark and unyielding. I curled up under the covers, the remnants of my headache still throbbing. He pulled a chair over and sat by the bed, not turning on the main light, leaving just a dim bedside lamp on in the corner. The light cast half of his face in shadow, and he stared at me, his gaze unfathomable. Not a word was spoken. The silence was deafening, and my mind-reading abilities had completely failed me. Yet this quiet was more unsettling than his earlier outbursts. Unable to resist, I stole a glance at him. His lips pressed into a straight line, his jaw tense, emanating a low pressure. His face looked slimmer. A barely audible fragment of thought brushed past me like a feather. I was taken aback, thinking perhaps my pain was muddling my mind. He stood up, irritably raking his fingers through his hair, and walked to the window, turning his back to me. His silhouette was rigid against the faint night light seeping through the window, holding an unknown tension. Should I suggest a psychologist? Another vague thought wrestled its way to the surface, filled with confusion and panic. Have I pushed too hard? My heart felt as if it had been struck by something forceful. Shen Yen was actually contemplating this? Was he doubting himself? He suddenly turned around, striding back to the bed. His lips moved, but he ultimately only managed to force out a terse command. Close your eyes and sleep. Then, he did something that sent a chill through my veins. He tossed aside the covers and lay down right next to me. The mattress sank heavily, and even through my sleepwear, I could feel his searing body temperature. He gazed at me, his thoughts brimming with a reckless defiance, making sure I wouldn't stir in the dead of night. I lay frozen, like a mummy, scarcely daring to breathe. Beside me, his breath slowed deliberately. The ability to read minds may have vanished, but had Shen Yen truly come to lie beside me? Was it out of concern for my well-being? This realization detonated in the darkness like a bomb, sending my heart racing and blood coursing through my veins. The cage remained, yet it seemed I was not the only captive within it. In the morning, I drowsily opened my eyes to find Shen Yen still beside me, not daring to move. His breathing was steady as he feigned sleep, while my eyelids fluttered in a desperate attempt to feign death. Suddenly, his arm swept across, a scorching hand resting on my abdomen, rubbing gently. Soft. His inner voice resonated with a satisfied, sleepy rasp. I held my breath, enduring the sensation as that hand boldly ventured beneath the hem of my t-shirt, the warm palm pressing against my bare side. Ouch! I shot up. Shen Yen, where do you think you're putting your hand? He lazily opened his eyes, his black gaze clear and devoid of any remnants of sleep. What are you making a fuss about? He retorted, withdrawing his hand with an air of indignation, as if repulsed by something. You're all sweaty. Ugh. Slippery. His inner voice betrayed him. You did that on purpose, I accused. Did what? He sat up, the collar of his silk pajama shirt slipping open, revealing an arrogant display of muscle definition. His gaze swept over my disheveled state, a wicked smirk curling at the corner of his mouth. I was just checking your temperature. You were burning up last night, remember? I was momentarily silenced by his audacious counterattack, grabbing a pillow to throw at him. He caught it effortlessly, yanking me forward until my balance faltered, and I tumbled into his embrace. Embracing me willingly? He chuckled, resting his chin atop my head. Fine by me. Saves me the trouble of calling for room service. The scent of shampoo mixed with his heated breath enveloped me. Get off me, you jerk, I struggled, my elbow unintentionally colliding with his abdomen. Oof! He grunted, his arm tightening around me, nearly squeezing the breath from my lungs. Such strength. His voice was low and tinged with a dangerous intensity. Looks like you've recovered well? Perhaps we should celebrate last night's victory? I froze instantly. Oh no, I had messed up this early in the morning. Zhou Jin, that little rascal, was still up to mischief, organizing an online art interview and specifically requesting me to discuss City Light and Shadow. I cautiously informed Shen Yen. He was engrossed in documents, not lifting his gaze. How long will it take? Just 20 minutes, a phone call, I can do it from home, I replied carefully. A phone call? At home? Sure. He actually agreed. It was like the sun had risen in the west. When the interview time arrived, I had deliberately changed into a proper turtleneck sweater and settled into my studio. Just as I finished setting up the equipment, the door swung open. Shin Yen strolled in, a cup of tea in hand, confidently sinking into the sofa behind me, crossing his long legs, ready to supervise. Let us see what you can talk about, his inner voice scrutinized. The connection was established. Zhou, congratulations. That series on light and shadow is phenomenal, especially the transparency in the second piece. Zhou Jin's voice radiated enthusiasm. I was about to respond when a clear cough erupted behind me. Shin Yen had somehow positioned himself behind my chair, one hand casually resting on the back, his fingers mere centimeters from my nape. Transparency? My inner thoughts chilled, realizing he was paying close attention. My scalp tingled, and I swiftly changed the subject. Thank you, Zhou Jin. It's all about capturing the right moment with light and shadow. Before I could finish, his hand on the back of my chair suddenly descended, pressing lightly yet firmly against the most sensitive spot on my nape, tracing a circle with an air of warning. Ugh! I nearly leaped from my chair. Zhou Jin and the host paused, bewildered. Teacher He, are you all right? The host inquired with concern. I'm fine. Just a bit of static electricity. I stammered, my face aflame. Static electricity? Shun Yen's low chuckle resonated behind me, his inner voice delighting in my distress. Yes, static electricity. That wicked finger did not withdraw. Instead, it intensified its ministrations, the fingertip calloused, kneading the tiny patch of skin on my nape. The pressure fluctuated between gentle and firm, akin to a child toying with a prized possession. This spot, it makes one shiver with just a touch. My thoughts were filled with a sense of discovery, his actions becoming increasingly brazen. I felt utterly weak, my breath unsteady. During the latter half of the interview, my mind was consumed by the mischief of that hand on my nape and the heat of his gaze behind me. I couldn't recall what I had said. Torture. It was unequivocally torture. My ability to read minds had become as elusive as SHR Dinger's cat, appearing and disappearing at will. The headaches had ceased, yet Shin Yen had recently been acting strangely. He no longer kept a vigilant watch over my art exhibitions and even permitted Zhou Jin to send me information about the art festival. However, whenever I became engrossed, I couldn't shake the sensation of a powerful gaze glued to my back. One day, while working on a small piece depicting the shadows of the phoenix tree outside in my new studio, Shin Yen strolled in, empty-handed, merely standing and observing. What is so captivating about that dull yellow? My inner voice scoffed. I chose to ignore him. After a prolonged silence, he suddenly spoke. Next weekend, come with me to a place. Where? I asked without looking up. You'll find out when we get there. He teased me with a mystery. He should probably like it. My thoughts drifted with a rare twinge of anxiety. I paused my brush, astonished, and looked up at him. Shin Yen was nervous? It was truly as if the sun had risen in the west. He avoided my probing gaze, turning to feign interest in the window, his ears suspiciously flushed. What if he doesn't like it? I thought, panic creeping in. This reaction was exceedingly unusual. My curiosity piqued, I replied, all right then, let us go. On the day of our departure, he drove us personally. The car journey led us out of the city and into the countryside. The road grew increasingly obscure, leaving me bewildered. Where exactly are we going? Almost there, he replied, gripping the steering wheel with white knuckles. The navigation is correct, right? This desolate place, my inner voice revealed my lack of direction. The car finally halted in the midst of a vast, abandoned factory district. Rusty pipes and crumbling walls surrounded us in an eerie silence. What on earth? I thought, bewildered. Why had he brought me to this desolate wilderness? To dispose of a body? Shun Yen exited the car, rounding to open my door, his expression taut. He took my hand, guiding me toward a tall, old factory building. He pushed open a heavy iron door, and I was left speechless. The interior of the factory had been completely transformed. In the lofty space, massive, soft lighting fixtures hung in an artful arrangement. The weathered walls had become the finest backdrop. The most breathtaking sight, however, was the strikingly futuristic, pure white stage set up in the center of the venue. This is a venue for your exhibition. Shen Yen's voice was a touch rigid, yet his eyes sparkled with an astonishing brightness, keenly locking onto my reaction. Only your paintings will be displayed. I will personally oversee it. Do you like it? Wow. Why aren't you speaking? Don't you like it? My inner voice panicked. I spent a fortune on this. The designer called it industrial style with an artistic flair. I gazed at the dreamlike space before me. A perfect fusion of rugged industry and pristine art. Then back at Shanyen's handsome face, taut with anxiety yet feigning calm. My heart swelled with a mix of tenderness and ache. Shanyen, I called him by his full name for the first time. He swallowed hard. I looked at him, rising on my toes, and swiftly pressed a peck on his tightly pursed lips. What? My inner voice erupted into a flurry of blank snowflakes. I stepped back slightly, witnessing his expression freeze in shock, and I smiled, my eyes glistening. I like it immensely, was momentarily stunned, his ears turning crimson at an observable pace. After several seconds, he abruptly regained his composure, seizing me fiercely and pulling me into his embrace. My heart, once disconnected, surged back to life with a euphoric thrill and a deeper possessiveness. The intensity of that embrace felt as though he intended to meld me into his very being. At the prestigious auction, insisted on dragging me along, under the pretense of broadening my horizons. I suspected he merely wished to flaunt his possessions. The dazzling crystal chandeliers cast a blinding light over the venue, filled with elegantly dressed individuals. Clad in high fashion, exuded an undeniable aura as he held my hand, surveying the crowd as if claiming his territory. The throngs parted before us. Mr. Shin, may I inquire who this is? A certain executive inquired with a forced smile. He is Ling Zhou, replied succinctly without embellishment. The inner voice echoed defiantly, a silent proclamation of pride. I felt a twinge of embarrassment and attempted to withdraw my hand, only to find his grip tightening. Oh, mister. He is quite the gentleman, the executive flattered, casting furtive glances. Inner voice mocked, care to gaze any further? He swiftly wrapped his arm around me, pressing me against his side, close enough to inhale the crisp, woody fragrance that lingered around him. As the auction commenced, bidding for an antique vase grew fervent. Lazily raised his paddle. Mr. Shen, do you have a penchant for porcelain? A stunning woman clad in a deep V-red gown leaned in, her perfume intoxicating, her gaze alluring, did not even lift his eyes, replying coolly, just here for amusement. The atmosphere felt suffocating. Keep your distance, the inner voice grumbled. Unwilling to relent, the woman leaned in further, her chest nearly grazing his arm. Mr. Shun has exquisite taste. The lines of this vase are truly beautiful, she purred, suddenly turned, evading her encroachment. Yet his arm pulled me forward unexpectedly, causing me to tumble into his embrace, nearly landing on his lap. Lines? Murmured, his chin brushing against the crown of my head. His arm encircled my waist possessively, his voice low yet clear, resonating through the now hushed room. Indeed, quite beautiful. His gaze, however, was fixed not on the vase but on my flushed cheek, which had reddened in embarrassment. Jojo's waistline is 1,000 times more exquisite than that wretched vase. The inner voice reveled in a sense of ownership. The woman's complexion drained of color. I found myself publicly ensconced in his embrace, his warmth igniting my skin, while my face burned with heat. Could you be any more ostentatious in declaring your claim? In the late-night study, furrowed his brow over a pile of documents. I sat beside him on the couch, engrossed in a book, though a dull ache throbbed in my head. Suddenly, his voice erupted. Who prepared this shoddy report? This riddled with flaws. Fire him tomorrow. Jojo, which chapter are you on? Ugh, is your collar getting larger again? Have the maid sew it up tomorrow. I just want to pinch that soft waist of yours. You look so obedient. I want to take you right now. Familiar fragments of his inner voice crashed over me like a tidal wave, clearer and more explosive than before. I froze, crumpling the page I held. The last phrase, want to take you, struck me like a jolt of electricity. Is this all that occupies his mind? Seemingly sensing my rigidity, glanced up. Not feeling well? Why is your face red again? Is the air conditioning too high? His inner voice expressed concern. I'm just a bit warm, I replied evasively, my heart pounding. This telepathic ability of his is terribly ill-timed. He set the documents aside and approached. Warm? He reached out, his cool fingertips brushing against my heated neck. I shivered, feeling a surge of electricity course through me. Is your pulse racing? He pondered, his curiosity evident as his fingers traced along my neck, gliding towards the hollow of my collarbone. applying gentle pressure. Are you really unwell? I recoiled suddenly, like a startled rabbit, fleeing in panic. I'm tired. I'm going to sleep. Behind me, S' hand lingered in the air. Where are you running off to? I 1T bite, his inner voice teased. But that skin is remarkably smooth. An even more provocative thought followed, like a whisper from a devil. I dashed back to my room, slamming the door behind me, sliding down to the floor against it, gasping for breath. This is disastrous. His telepathy seems to have upgraded to an adult channel. In the master bedroom, the sound of water echoed. I hesitated before stepping in to retrieve my forgotten nightgown. The steam enveloped me, and the frosted glass revealed its tall silhouette. Just as I grasped my nightgown, the bathroom door swung open. Clad in a loosely tied towel at his waist, water droplets cascading down his sculpted chest and abdomen, disappeared into the alluring line of his physique. His hair was damp, his gaze glistening with moisture, exuding a wild allure. Are you offering yourself? His inner voice carried an unexpected thrill entwined with a hint of danger. My scalp tingled. I'm just getting my clothes. He extended his long arm, propping himself against the doorframe, trapping me between him and the door. The steamy air and the scent of shower gel enveloped me. Why are you running? He lowered his head, his wet hair brushing against my forehead, his breath searing hot. You seemed quite bold at the auction today. Fuming with anger, his inner voice seethed with a fierce possessiveness. It's time to extinguish that fire. With his other hand, wet and warm, he caressed my cheek, his thumb pressing heavily against my lower lip, his gaze dark and predatory. How many people have seen this spot today, His voice melded with a tumult of desire and fury, intensifying his grip. My lips stung from the pressure, and the sense of invasion ignited a rebellious spark within me. The telepathy screamed in my mind. Want a pinch? Want to extinguish the fire? Fine. I lifted my chin, locking eyes with his deep gaze, stepping closer rather than retreating. Rising onto my toes, I mimicked his actions from earlier, sinking my teeth into his moving Adam's apple, applying a bit of force. Trembled, a muffled groan escaping him. The arm that held the doorframe tightened, veins standing out. Damn it! His inner voice erupted into a void of white noise. I released him, observing the clear bite mark on his throat, licking my lips, my eyes challenging. Is the fire extinguished now, Mr. Shin? An eerie silence enveloped us, punctuated only by the sound of dripping water. S' gaze bore into mine, the tempest within him coalescing into a vortex of insatiable hunger. He grasped the back of my head, his searing lips crashing down with a blend of punishment and deeper longing. You're courting death. His inner voice was consumed by a singular, violent thought. Let me show you what true extinguishing looks like. The steam in the bathroom thickened. The cage? It had long been incinerated by this wildfire, leaving nothing but ashes in its wake. The end of the text. Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed it, please subscribe and give a thumbs up for support. Until we meet in the next story.